Welcome to Excel Campus. My name is John, and in this video, I'm going to share 19 advanced Excel shortcuts. So some of these you might have seen or heard of before, but I think these are great shortcuts that you might not use every day, but can definitely save you time. Now, all of these shortcuts will work for the Windows desktop version of Excel, and will list the Mac equivalents wherever possible. I will also make the file I'm using available for free download, and I'll put a link to that in the description below this video. So the first shortcut is for filtering pivot tables. This is a great little shortcut. So we have a pivot table here, and let's say we want to filter out this item, this pivot item. We can just select that cell, hit Control minus. That will apply a filter and then exclude the blank item from the field there. You can also do this with multiple items. So we'll select these items, again, hit Control minus. That applies that filter to exclude those items. Next is grouping rows and columns. So let's say we want to hide all of these columns with the months here. First, going to select all of those columns for the months, then use Shift Alt right arrow to create that group. Then of course we can collapse and expand the group. Shift Alt left arrow will ungroup, and then we can also do the same for rows. So select the rows, Shift Alt right arrow will create a group for the rows. Next is selecting visible cells. So here we have some rows that are hidden, grouped and hidden. And if we were to select these cells and then copy and paste, that would include the hidden rows. However, after we do that selection, if we use Alt semicolon, hold the Alt key and press semicolon, that's going to select the visible cells only. Then we can hit Control C to copy, come down here, Control V to paste, and that will only paste the visible cells. Next are a few shortcuts for navigating and selecting cells. So let's say we're at this cell here and we hit Control Shift down arrow to select the entire column. If we want to go back and see the top cell, that active cell, we can hold Control and hit backspace to jump up and make the active cell visible. Now, if we have the entire range selected, I'll hit Control A. We can use Control period to select the corners. So that's going to select the top left corner, Control period again, select the top right corner, Control period again will select the bottom right corner. So this is a great way to navigate around the range and also see the bottom and top rows of the selection. And then if you're on a phone call with someone and they're asking you to navigate to a specific cell or row, you can hit F5 or Control G to bring up the go-to window. And you can just type the cell in here. So maybe we want to go to A565, hit enter, and that of course will take us right down to that cell. Next, we'll look at finding the next match. So first we're going to open the find window with Control F, and maybe we want to find product 3 in this column. So I'll just type product 3. Of course, we can hit find next here to find the next matching value. We can also close this window, again with product 3 in the find what box. And we can use Shift F4 to find the next match. So hold Shift and continue to hit F4 to just find the cell with the next matching value. Control Shift F4 will find the previous match. Now, if you only want to find cells in a specific column, I'm going to open the find window again, hit options here, and we want to change the search to by rows. That will search by rows, going down every single column. If we change this to by columns, that'll search across rows left to right. Next, we'll look at shortcuts for entering and copying data. So if I want to enter a formula in this column here, I'm first going to select all those cells, going to type equals, and then I'll just say quantity times price. And now I want to hit Control Enter to fill down the formula to all the selected cells. And if this is a value here, Control Enter will also enter the value, the same value in all those selected cells. Now maybe we forget to do that. We'll put the formula, we'll select here all the cells here. We'll put the formula right in here, this time shipping plus net total, and hit enter. We forgot to hit Control Enter. So in this case, we can use Control D to copy down. You can also do that in a cell below a formula or a value. So I'll hit Control D here, and that will again copy the formula down from the cell above. And then Control R will copy from the left. So it's just copying the formula here from the left. Next, we'll look at how to copy down formula text and values. So in this cell, we have a sum function with a relative reference. And if we were to copy this down, that would include the total row. And we don't want that. So what we can do is select this cell here and use Control apostrophe to just copy down the formula text from the cell above. Then of course we can modify this or just hit enter to enter the formula. Now, if we just wanted to copy down the values from above and not the formula, we can use Control-Shift-apostrophe. That again is going to put the cell in edit mode with the value there, and then you can hit enter to confirm the change. Next, we'll look at line breaks. So in this example, let's say we want to have FY on the next line next to 2019. Now, if I try and resize this cell, I just can't get FY on that line without there being this issue here with the numbers not fitting. If I expand it back out, FY is on this line. So what we can do is hit F2 or double click to edit this, and then put the text cursor right there in front of FY. Then hold down the Alt key and hit enter, and that will add a line break. Of course, you can continue to do this in a cell to enter multiple line breaks or multiple paragraphs in a cell, but now if we hit enter, that line break will stay there even as we resize the cell. So we'll always have that line break there, and this formatting will stay. Next, we'll look at modifying cell styles. So this cell has a style applied to it. If I hit Alt-apostrophe, that'll bring up the style window to modify the style. Then of course we can just go change its style, change it to something different, hit OK, and that will modify all the cells that that style is applied to. Next, we'll look at selecting cells with differences. So in this column here, I have a formula. However, some of these cells in the column have a different formula and some just contain values. So in order to select those cells, we're first going to select all the cells in the column, then use the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-. That will select all the cells with differences from what was the original active cell here. And then of course we can go apply some kind of fill color to highlight those. And the keyboard shortcut to select row differences is Control-. Next, we'll look at selecting precedents and dependents. And this is great when you're doing any type of formula auditing or modifying formulas and you want to see the potential impact that that could have. So this cell here just contains a simple formula that multiplies these two cells together. If we wanted to select those cells, we can first select this cell, then use Control open bracket, and that will select the direct precedence of that cell. Now, if we want to select all the precedents, meaning not only this cell here, but any cells that are used for the formula of this cell, like these two cells, we can again select this cell, then use Control-Shift open bracket. That'll again select all the cells used in this formula and the cells used in the other formulas that are used in this formula. And then selecting dependents is the opposite of that. So if we start with this cell here and use Control close bracket, that's going to select this cell because this cell is dependent on this cell or uses that cell in that. And then if we use Control Shift close bracket, that's not only going to select this dependent cell, but all of these cells as well, because these cells are also dependent on this cell here. So again, this is a great way to see the impact that might be made if you change a formula. Next, we'll look at shortcuts for named ranges. So Control F3 opens the name manager. And of course, you can edit and modify named ranges here. You can also create named ranges, and Alt N is the keyboard shortcut to hit that new button to create a new named range. You can modify the name, hit enter, and that will create the new named range. And then you can use escape to get out of this window. Next, we'll look at shortcuts for the formula bar and ribbon. So here we have a really long formula. Now, of course, you can drag this down to make the formula bar larger and then move it back up. You can also click this button here to expand or collapse it. The keyboard shortcut for that is Control-Shift-U. So Control-Shift-U will expand the formula bar. Hitting Control-Shift-U again will collapse it. Now, if you want to create more space for your spreadsheet, you can also use Control-F1 to hide the ribbon. And then Control-F1 again will bring it back. Next is resizing columns. So the first thing I'm going to do if I want to resize or auto-fit this column is select the column. You can use Control Space for that. Make sure the entire column is selected. Then the keyboard shortcut is Alt-HOI. And that's going to auto-fit the column width based on the selection. And one place this comes in very handy is when you're using Excel tables and maybe changing or rearranging the order of the columns. Now we need to auto fit again. I'm going to hit Control A first and then hit Control A one more time to select all of the cells, including the header row, then Alt-HOI to auto fit all the columns in the table. And finally, we'll look at the selection pane. Alt F10 is the shortcut to open and close the selection pane. And of course, the selection pane contains a list of all the shapes on the sheet, including slicers and charts. Here you can hide and unhide these shapes. You can also rename them and then change the order to either bring them in front or behind other shapes. And this is a great window to have open when you're creating dashboards or working with any kinds of sheets that contain reports and multiple shapes. So that's 19 advanced Excel shortcuts. Hopefully you learned a few new ones here. Of course, feel free to share this with your coworkers and friends that might also benefit from some of these time-saving techniques. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.